what team has been working on synchronization and communication here?
Yeah, that's going to be the big key to this workout. We're looking at a new movement that these teams have never faced. We don't know if they've practiced it. Maybe they have, but we've got synchronized rope climbs. That's the big thing that sticks out to me. If somebody's beating somebody else to the top, you're stuck there waiting. The fatigue of the hands, we saw it with the individuals. How's that going to play out with teams as they have to wait for everybody to touch that top mark at the same time?
Right. I think at this point, most teams have handled the worm significantly, so it really is going to come down to those rope climbs.
Top 7 teams in the overall standings on the field, and it's OC3 Black that has the time to beat in this event, 12 minutes, 52.85 seconds, and we are underway in the second and final heat, and we begin with 7 synchronized rope climbs. And the synchronization occurs with every athlete getting to the top at the same time. Let's look at CrossFit Krypton, CrossFit Mayhem Freedom, and Dan, we were talking about before we came on here, they're not going to have a problem with the rope climbs, and they are one of the best teams on the worm.
Yeah, they're the team to watch in this event by far. These are two things that I know down in Cookeville, down at CrossFit Mayhem, they train relentlessly. They do so many rope climbs. They're always on the worm day in and day out, working on their synchronization and just working on their conditioning and overall work capacity with both of these implements. So look for them to take the victory in this heat.
Mayhem Freedom through 3 of those first 7 rope climbs. There are 49 repetitions in this first round, 105 scored repetitions in total in this event. The leader's name in the heat will be highlighted in a blue box at the top of your screen. The number of reps that team has completed will be displayed in the white box. The teams that are displayed in red, the number in the white box next to their names will either read if they're tied with the leader or how many reps they trail the leader by. Is now all these teams are basically keeping the same pace. Mayhem Freedom through 5. CrossFit Alioth is tied with them now, and Don't Stop just 1 rep back of them.
And you could see that was an interesting strategy with Krypton there. Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet went up the rope a significant couple of strokes before the rest of the team, and I'm wondering if it's just because she's a smaller athlete, they're letting her get an earlier start, knowing that the gentleman and even Jessica will need less time to get to the top of the rope.
Don't Stop continues in 3rd place. On the left of your screen, that was Invictus Boston, the team of Tola Morikino, Craig Kenny, Kelsey Keel, and Caitlin Cassis. Is Mayhem Freedom. They are done, and they will move on to the 358-pound worm for 42 thrusters. There's 2 100-pound segments, 2 70-pound segments. It's 11 feet long, and then there are 3 6-pound separating bags in the middle of that thing, and that gives it its total weight of 358 pounds. So Mayhem Freedom now through 14 of the 49 repetitions, now 15 of those 49 repetitions here in this opening round. CrossFit Alioth and Don't Stop, they are the other 2 teams on the worm, but Mayhem Freedom about 4 reps ahead of Alioth, and they're about 8 reps ahead of Don't Stop. Don't Stop on the right side of your screen as they work through the worm thrusters as well. That's another team that's very familiar with this implement.
Something you can notice when they start having a little bit of trouble with that communication is you might see a couple people start to squat a little bit early. You might see a wave kind of produce in that worm, some kind of dip. That means somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do. Maybe squatted a little bit early. Maybe somebody forgot to go down, thought they were taking a rest. All those things are going to start to add up as we get further and further into this workout.
It's Mayhem Freedom, Tasia Persevich, China Cho, Rich Froning, and Dre Strom.
They've got a great cadence on that worm. Like Dan was saying, that worm moves like a solid unit, mainly because their cadence is the same. They move at the exact same pace, and they know exactly when they're going to rest and exactly when they're going to go again.
That is Team Don't Stop. Travis Williams in front. Behind him is Jen Smith. Then it's Roy Gamboa and Alexis Johnson. And now there's where you saw the lack of communication.
And it's got to go down. Once you put it down, no work's being done. The thing's not up on the shoulder. It can be a little bit defeating as a team to know that you have to drop it maybe when you didn't plan on it. So you have to scrap that and try to just keep moving forward.
Well, Mayhem Freedom is done with their opening round of 49 repetitions. They'll advance the worm, then walk back to the rig. 35 total repetitions now here in round number 2. 5 synchronized rope climbs, and then 30 worm thrusters. time to beat belongs to OC3 Black, 12 minutes, 52.85 seconds, and they put that up in the first of these 2 heats. This is event 2 for the teams here on the opening day of the 2019 Reebok CrossFit Games. They will have one more event after this with a quick reset, and then that'll close out day 1 of competition for them. And now, Don't Stop getting out of synchronization there on the worm, and that's a costly no rep, and once again the worm is down. They're going to have to reset, and they are falling back as Central Beasts have now moved into 3rd place. CrossFit Alioth, they are done with round 1. They are in 2nd place.
And if you look at the split of Mayhem Freedom's worm thrusters versus OC3 Black's worm thrusters on that first round, they're about 30 seconds ahead just on that worm. So if they can hold pace, they stand a chance to beat OC3 Black, who is notoriously one of the best teams on the worm.
Don't Stop now 10 reps off the lead pace. Mayhem Freedom through 51 of the 105 scored repetitions that they have just completed another synchronized rope climb. The Central Beasts there in 3rd place. They had the fastest, 2nd fastest time on the worm. It took them just 2 minutes, 9.6 seconds to get through those 42 thrusters. That's how they were able to gain so much ground and move themselves into 3rd place. And now they are just 2 repetitions back of that team. CrossFit Mayhem Freedom for the lead here. 18-minute time cap. We approach the 6-minute mark, and now Don't Stop, after having some problems on the worm there at the bottom of your screen, they are back to the rig for their 2nd round. 5 synchronized rope climbs await them.
They took Don't Stop took a handful of no reps on their first pass at the worm. I got to wonder what that's going to do to them on the rope climbs coming up.
Central Beast going through their rope climbs. Don't Stop working through theirs as they've got things sorted now, but it's Mayhem Freedom more than halfway done with this event through 53 of the 105 scored events. It's CrossFit Krypton, Jessica Griffith, and Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet. Mayhem Freedom has moved on to the worm for the 2nd time. They are the only team on their 2nd round of worm thrusters. 30 reps to complete now for them.
They're in a great spot. I mean, no urgency. They're just chatting with each other, making sure everybody's ready. Hey, no mistakes. We're in the lead. We're doing well. Let's keep these reps clean. Let's keep everything smooth and execute it for a good victory.
And when you watch Mayhem Freedom on the worm, there is no wasted movement here whatsoever.
Not at all.
None. That worm stays in a straight line pretty much the entire time. It goes up over the head and when they drop down into the squat. No deviation.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching the Rockettes dance, right? Like every leg moves at the same time. Everything's just up, down, right at the same exact time.
Not what I'm watching on the weekends, but you know.
The Rockettes?
I get it.
You should.
You're kind of dating yourself with that reference. For Mayhem Freedom now, they are done with their first part of their 30 worm thrusters through 69 of the 105 total scored repetitions. And now the Central Beasts getting to work as Zach Sather is in front. Nicole Holcomb is in the back and now a no rep. And they have to get this thing sorted as the worm is down. Joseph Tortora talking to his judge, trying to get something clarified.
And again, like Dan was saying, those no reps on the worm are so costly, and not just because you've done the work, but whenever you put that worm down, you got to pick it back up again, and that's a good concentrated effort to get that bag back to those shoulders.
You know, one of the things that the athletes have to work around with the worm, depending on who's your team, if you have large height disparities between men and women, or just one or two different people, that creates a problem with moving it up over your head, creates a problem with getting it to your shoulder. You really have to figure out how to do that and how to move it the best with those differences in height.
Mayhem Freedom is now done with round number 2 through 84 of the 105 scored repetitions, 3 synchronized rope climbs, and then 18 worm thrusters. CrossFit Alioth trying to get things going on that worm as the Central Beasts, they were pushing for second place at one point And they're having some problems on this worm. They're still in second place, but they are 15 reps behind that team, Mayhem Freedom, on their third and final round of synchronized rope climbs. CrossFit Alioth remains in third, now 19 reps off the lead pace.
And so far, looking at this, Mayhem has won every single split going across the board. Pretty impressive.
And now they're starting to reel in OC3 Black's top time, 12 minutes 52.85 seconds. And OC3 Black needs to hope that it's only Mayhem Freedom that beats them in this event, because they would lock up a second place finish right now. And as OC3 Black looks to climb up the standings, they need those points. The Central Beast advancing their worm, and they will move back to the rig for their third and final round of synchronized rope climbs. Mayhem Freedom continuing to lead here.
Such a different feel when you have those cuts. I mean, how you do in the first event is just, now you've left it up to other people to potentially put you out, right? There might be nothing you can do. Even if you win an event, you finish so low at the start and you can't get above that cut line, and that's it for your weekend.
Yeah, and a lot of these teams we've talked about before, they have a plan, but when you're faced with that situation, now you got to throw it out and maybe take some risks that you normally wouldn't take at this early juncture in a competition.
Right.
Just 18 reps remaining for Rich Froning. Time to beat is in the bottom left-hand part of your screen. Belongs to OC3 Black, but probably not for much longer. Mayhem Freedom won event number 1, looking to go 2 for 2 with one event remaining here on day number 1.
Just so impressive how smooth they are when you compare what they look like to all these other teams. Every rep is the exact same in Rich Froning fashion, right?
Just 9 to go now. More than a minute and a half. And the first no rep we've seen on the worm. And they quickly adjust, and this is where experience with this comes in handy.
Yeah, didn't have to put it down.
Right.
Made the adjustment, corrected, made sure everybody was ready, and then they're back to work.
Now it's the first time they've gone out of sync. They are done. And Rich Froning and Mayhem Freedom are perfect so far. Another event win for the team from Cookeville, Tennessee.
Very impressive performance. They beat OC3 Black by almost an entire minute right there. And to think that OC3 Black is such a good team with the worm, really impressive performance.
Well, the good news for OC3 is that the Central Beast and CrossFit Krypton, now sitting in third in this heat, are not going to chase down their time. So it's looking like OC3 Black is going to lock up a second place finish. That'll be good for 93 points. And man, they needed those points coming into this event. So great result for OC3 as the Central Beasts have 10 reps remaining. Have 9 worm thrusters. And then they'll advance again. So the Central Beast looking to lock up second place in this heat. They can lock up third in the event, and they're going to do just that. It's a third place finish in event number 2 for the Central Beasts.
Which is really impressive when you combine that with their 5th place finish in that first event. They're looking really good. They're coming out on day 1 with some great scores.
A lot of solid people from the great state of Ohio on that team.
About 4.5 to go before we hit the 18-minute time cap. That is CrossFit Krypton. The team of Alex Smith, Cody Mooney, Jessica Griffith, and Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet. And now Don't Stop on the left side of your screen. Once again, they were, pardon me, that's the Exterminators out of Australia, the team for Rob Forte. CrossFit Krypton, as we are past the 14-minute mark, they will not be able to finish inside the top 5 in this event. They came in 3rd place overall.
And the other thing to consider, Sean, is with only 2 minutes in between these two events, the sooner you finish, the more rest you're actually getting between this event and the lifting portion. So it really pays off to finish early.
That's a really good point. Now CrossFit Krypton is done. The CrossFit Alioth came in fourth place overall, just 7 points back of them. So they're going to hold off Alioth, but the Central Beasts are going to gain ground on them in the overall standings. The Exterminators, they came in second place overall. They're still on the field, so they are likely going to fall out of that number 2 spot, as we have now just about 3 minutes to go before we hit that 18-minute time cap. The Alioth and Don't Stop, they are your leaders on the field right now.
I believe that's Invictus Boston still on the final set of rope climbs. So doesn't bode well for Invictus Boston, who did not have the best first event either.
That's CrossFit Alioth. They'll get across the finish line. So they're going to gain ground on the Exterminators, who came in second place overall. And now Don't Stop is in. That's going to help them, as they came in and tied for 6th place in the overall standings. So they're doing some damage control here. And that is Invictus Boston. Craig Kenny in the front for his team. And you got to think that the combination of Craig Kenny and Tola Moraquino are going to do really well on this next event, but they have to do some damage control here and get as many points as they possibly can before they get to those heavy barbells.
I have to wonder if they got some no reps on rope climb, something to set them back that far. The people on the team, the guys and the girls, don't strike me as people who would have trouble climbing the rope. So I'm kind of curious as to see maybe what happened in that event, and can they pick up the slack coming up into that clean and jerk.
Well, Invictus Boston and the Exterminators, they are the only 2 teams left on the field. And once again, the Exterminators came into this event in 2nd place overall. They're going to fall out of that spot. Now the question is how far do they fall as Invictus Boston comes across the finish line? That leaves the Exterminators as the only team on the field with less than a minute to go before we hit the 18-minute time cap.
And to Dan's point earlier, you know, besides OC3 Black needing to do well, they needed teams like the Exterminators to not do well, and that's exactly what's happening right here. So this is good news for OC3 Black. This is not great news for the Exterminators.
Invictus Boston's going to get 12th place in the event. That's a great way to rest.
I guess it's a little hot out there.
After an event. "20 seconds to go now before we hit the 18-minute time cap.
And the important thing now is to really, these teams have to start to think about recovering as well as they can before they get to that platform.
And we do have one event coming up right after this. Is event 3. It's the team 1 rep max clean and jerk. And that'll do it for the time cap, as the Exterminators are the only team in that second and final heat to not finish the event. But Mayhem Freedom, they're perfect so far. They have competed in 2 events. They have won 2 events. And they lock up another 100 points. And Dan, it was clear that they had a plan and that they may have practiced something like this before.
Anytime I go visit Cookeville, I'm guaranteed to do 60-plus rope climbs. So I can, you know, this is not a surprise to me at all. I figured this Mayhem was going to have this one pretty much on lock. It would have been a real big surprise if somebody would have challenged them in this event. They've always been really great at the worm. So there you see them kind of strolling across the line, not really having to worry about anybody catching them and taking down OC3 Black from the other heat.
But how about the Central Beasts? I am so impressed with their 2 performances thus far. This was a team that has 1 CrossFit Games individual in Nicole Holcomb. So not a team that I really had my eyes on going into this weekend, but a 5th and a 3rd. Fantastic finishes for them.
Yeah, and speaking of a fantastic finish, OC3 Black with that 2nd place They rack up 93 points, and man, they needed that. And now we move into event number 3. It's the clean and jerk. They can lift in any order, but once the weight goes on the bar, it cannot come off.
Correct. There's one barbell. It's a 20 kg barbell, and everybody has to lift with that barbell. I think this is kind of one of the moments as a fan of this sport we've all been waiting for, with names like Tola and Mia Ackerlund out there on the floor lifting. Mia Ackerlund has a listed clean and jerk of 270 pounds.
That'll do.
Some of the boys might have to
There are a lot of men that would
kill
for that kind of number.
Exactly.
And to your point, because of all the ways that this event has worked out, you wouldn't think you could add much strategy into a max lift, right? Okay, we're going to throw some weight on the bar, max lift, see what everybody does, total it up, there's the winner. But now, like you mentioned, you put it so close to this event that they just had, fried your grip, your legs are a little cooked, right? If you finished in the back half of the pack or got capped, they only have, what's the cap for this? 7 minutes.
Exactly.
Correct? You only have 7 minutes to complete this. You don't have a lot of time to recover if you got capped in that event, if you finished super late. Meanwhile, paid to be a winner, Mayhem's been sitting around for the past 3 to 4 minutes.
They've had a glass of iced tea and a little snack, and they're ready to go again.
Right.
We just saw Sin Krogstad from CrossFit Alioth hit 185 pounds. China Cho is on 165 pounds. The top total from the prior heat was by Invictus, 1,150 pounds. So the top lift for every athlete is added together to get that mark as Teja Persevich hits 165 pounds. And now Mia Ackerlund on 205, and that looked easy.
Power clean.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you think about Invictus, that's definitely a team that we expect to do well with the two females in Lauren Fisher and Reagan Huckabee, who can obviously lift great weight, and then Rasmus Anderson and Tommy Venus. So not surprising that they won that first heat. Really interesting to see what happens here with the second heat.
That's Sin Krogstad hitting 205. That's Teja Persevich at 195. Meanwhile, it's the Exterminators. They have the top total so far at 690 pounds. CrossFit Krypton's in second. CrossFit Alioth is in third. That's Alexis Johnson for Don't Stop at 205, and she'll hit that.
CrossFit Krypton will definitely be another team to kind of watch in this. They have two very strong girls in Jessica Griffith and Camille LeBlanc-Blazonet. Camille has actually spent time training nationally for Olympic lifting, so this should be something that she's super excited about. Alex Smith, part of the Smith family. Everyone in that family can back squat 500 pounds plus. So I would expect him to put up some big numbers.
And there's Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet at 205. We saw Mia Ackerlund power clean 225 and jerk that with no problem. That was Emma Chapman for the Central Beast, and now Jessica Griffith for CrossFit Krypton at 205 as the Exterminators are still your leaders. 780 pounds right now on their total. Teja Persevich will hit 215. There's a 7-minute time cap here, and so far we have yet to see any of the men start to lift. Remember, once the weight goes on the bar, it cannot come off. Alexis Johnson has 220 to her shoulders. And she will hit that. Is now, we have a new leader, CrossFit Alioth, 920 pounds ahead of Mayhem Freedom by 60 pounds, and it's the Exterminators. They slide into third, as Roy Gamboa just did a warm-up rep at 220.
And I'm sure a lot of this comes down to when are you going to start to cycle your men in, right? Because there is a time cap.
Mia Ackerlund at 245.
Still power clean.
Looks like she still has more in the tank. That's your leader right there, CrossFit Alioth, 940 pounds and counting. We're about halfway through the 7-minute window. Invictus, Boston Kelsey, Kiel, 235. That's JST, or CrossFit Alioth now. Phil Hesketh at 275. Here's Froning as the men start to take over. No problem for him. Alexander Alebro. He will hit 275 for Alioth as they stay in the lead. About 100 pounds ahead of Mayhem Freedom right now. Failure for Jessica Griffith.
Krypton, one of the only teams that still has their ladies going right now. And again, like I was saying, you're 4 minutes in, you want to make sure you give your gentlemen enough time to get those big weights up.
Zeke Grove for the Exterminators makes his lift, and now Rich Froning stepping up to 315. Froning hits that, trying to get his team closer to CrossFit Alioth, as Mayhem Freedom sits in second place right now. Alioth looking for their first event win of the competition, as Mayhem Freedom so far has swept the first 2 events, a perfect 200 out of 200 points. Dre Strom at 315.
Easy jerk for
power
Dre.
clean too, yeah.
And with that, Mayhem Freedom has overtaken CrossFit Alioth for the lead in this event. And Phil Hesketh just failed at 295. Less than 2 minutes to go before we hit the 7-minute time cap. Froning at 335. Now Mayhem Freedom starting to open up a little bit of a lead here, a 30-pound lead right now on Alioth. Alex Smith on the barbell at 305 for CrossFit Krypton. Back to Mayhem Freedom, Dre Strom, 335.
Still a power clean.
Beautiful jerks by Dre
impressive.
Strom.
Yeah.
And a near push press for
Aquino is now on the barbell at 315, and push press like that was an empty barbell. So now this is where Invictus Boston can start to do some real damage. But did their women do enough for them to get close to the top here, as Rob Forte for the Exterminators makes his lift, and now Froning at 345.
They're closing in on Mayhem Freedom. The question is, have they given their gentlemen enough time to lift enough weight to overtake them?
Roy Gamboa, 330 for Don't Stop. Invictus Boston has now moved in second place. So Alioth falling out of the top 3 as CrossFit Krypton is now in third. But Mayhem Freedom, 1,120 pounds and counting, is Dre Strom at 345. Strom almost had it.
Looked like he rushed that jerk a little bit.
Definitely. The way his other jerks have looked.
Looks like they're starting to think about the clock a little bit as Travis Williams hits 330 pounds. Here's Tolamoro Aquino at 350. Can't get out of the hole on that one.
20 seconds.
But Invictus Boston looking at a really good result here for them, as Rich Froning at 360.
360.
10 seconds to go. Froning can't quite handle it, but Mayhem Freedom, perfect on day number 1, as they win all 3 events, 300 out of a possible 300 points.
I honestly didn't see that coming, at least not for the clean and jerk.
Wow.
I didn't expect them to take the victory there.
That's
got to scare everybody else in the field a little bit.
That really should scare everybody else. Mia Ackerland signing her scorecard. She had a solid performance for CrossFit Alioth, but they fell back in the pack. They're going to take 7th in this event. The Mayhem Freedom, pardon me, they win the heat, but they finish 2nd in the event.
Invictus.
The win goes to Invictus. They beat Mayhem Freedom by 40 pounds, but 2 firsts and a 2nd.
Still,
that's a great start.
Yeah.
Right? Not bad.
And especially like Dan was saying, when you're thinking heavy barbell, as good as Mayhem is, looking at some of these other teams, they wouldn't have been my top even 5 picks in this event. So really impressive performance from Mayhem Freedom.
Rich Froning at 345. And these were the lifts that really solidified the heat win for them. And Mayhem Freedom, out of a possible 300 points on day 1, they're going to have 293 of them.
You guys are moving some seriously heavy weight out there, and it's been a really good day for the team in general. Great performances across 3 events. Just take me through the day a little bit. I mean, how are you feeling after being out here in the hot sun after 3 events?
Feeling pretty good. We do a lot of training and volume normally, so this is a good day.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously this latest event, we saw you putting up some serious weight, but we also saw you tackling rope climbs. You were on Big Bob this morning. So what were those numbers like in comparison to what you can typically hit, maybe fresh?
I actually think I do a little bit better tired. I think I speak for all my teammates. So this was kind of cool that we normally practice this way, and we got to do it again in competition.
Absolutely. Congratulations, guys. Great day 1. Nice job.
Thank you.
Rich Froning, China Cho, Taja Persevich, and Dre Strom walking off the floor as they have a fantastic day number 1. Your event results for event number 3, Invictus. They get the event win with 1,160 pounds. Mayhem Freedom 40 pounds back of them. CrossFit Krypton, the only other team to break that 1,100 pound mark. OC3 Black will finish tied for 9th. So after winning the last event or getting a 2nd place finish, they settle for a 9th place finish, and that will earn them 44 points in the overall standings. We will step aside. We will be back to get you set up for the final individual event of the day. Stay with us here on the Rogue Iron Games.